evening. I am Richard S. McGhee, and you're watching The Learning Tree. I have as my guest this evening William O'Donnell, who is the Registrar of Deeds for Norfolk County. Tell me, you like to call Bill?
Call me Bill, Richard.
Call him Bill, okay.
I've been called worse.
You've been called a lot of things, I'm sure. First, let's talk about you. Give me a little background, history on you.
Well, sure. I grew up in Norwood, Massachusetts, down the street. I went to Zavarian Brothers High School over at Westwood. Was lucky enough to go to school down Georgetown University and came home to Boston College Law School. So I studied, and I still live in Norwood, and with my wife and 3 children. Been active in Norwood with sports and things. Actually, we coached against George Campbell years back at Wellesley High School. When
Is that right?
Norwood girls hockey team.
Is that right?
Back,
you're like Warren Buffett. You live in the original house?
Not quite.
Was Reverend Robert Drowning still at the law school at BC when you were there?
No, he wasn't. No.
He had gone to Congress by then.
Yeah.
So how was it BC in those days?
BC it was great. Law school was great. You got some great experience, and and great exposure too to different things. And so that's what I've tried to draw on my experiences. When I was down in Washington, I worked for Congressman Moakley. When I was in law school, I had a class that got us out into the courtroom doing prosecutions, and I ended up working for Bill Delahunt in the district attorney's office. So,
Delahunt, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, a long time. So, that's been some of my experience. I believe in public service, so I worked as an assistant district attorney.
Track me through your public service.
Well, I worked as an assistant district attorney. But much like probably a lot of people watching your show, I got involved locally. When I got out of law school, I ran for the planning board in Norwood and got elected town meeting member. We have, much like Wellesley, a representative town meeting.
Let me get this out of your way. Okay. Go ahead.
And,
you can have it.
Yeah, so we have been involved there, and I've been Registry of Deeds since 2002. It's an arm of government many people don't know about, but it's an arm of government when you think about deals with the biggest asset most of us have, which is our home.
How did you come into that job?
Well,
Being an attorney, does that good work for you?
Being an attorney, sometimes being an attorney in society is a bad thing. I enjoy being a lawyer. As I said, I was in the public service as an assistant district attorney, but I've also been in the private sector, so I think the having a law degree allows you to do a lot of different things, and this is one of them. I think it's an advantage to be a lawyer at the Registry of Deeds. There's 21 registries of deeds across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
How many?
21.
Okay.
And Norfolk County is one of the bigger ones. There's 28 communities that make up Norfolk County, Wellesley being one of them. And I think it does help to have an attorney running it. I had a broad range of experience as an attorney, whether it was litigation or real estate, and I've tried to use some of the things I've learned in government. When I worked for Congressman Moakley down in Washington, or locally, town meeting member, you see what government does well. Sometimes you see what government can improve upon, and I think also being in the private sector, I've tried to take that type of thinking with some of the things we've done with our modernization at the Registry of Deeds.
Do you have a family?
Yes, I have 3 children. My oldest is 26. He went to Stonehill College, and he's working. I have a daughter that just graduated Boston College last May.
Okay.
She's working,
Okay.
and I have a son that's a junior at Boston College, and hopefully he'll be working.
BC happens to be a choice of the family.
They were very fortunate and lucky to get in. I don't know if I could get into the schools that I went to. It's very hard to get into these schools.
You think it's hard these days?
I think it is.
Yes.
I think it's hard.
That's a discussion I'm going to have with the ed department someday. What's happening in higher education and these days? But anyway, back to you. What is the Registry of Deeds? Not what is the person who commands it, but what is this agency?
Well, it's an agency, and in Norfolk County, this agency started in 1793. Norfolk County's been in existence since 1793. So what it is, it's an agency that takes the community land records and records them in a safe and secure and accurate manner, and it makes those records available to the community and to the communities that make up Norfolk County. And I think the mission was the same in 1793 as it is now. It's just the services get delivered in a little different way, where it's a little bit more modern. But it's an arm of government many people don't know about, but I'm sure your town requires their Conservation Commission orders to be recorded, or their Board of Appeals decisions to be recorded. When you buy a house, a deed has to get recorded that tells everyone that you own that house. If you borrow money, the lenders want to make sure they get repaid and they have the mortgages recorded. So the Registry of Deeds is where all these community land records get recorded. And again, it involves an area of the economy that's very important, not just here in Wellesley or here regionally, here nationally. If you can't rely on records, a very big part of the economy, the real estate economy, would not be what it is now. So that's a little bit about, it's really it's where all the land records get recorded.
Are there two kinds of deeds?
Well, there are two types of land.
Two types of land, all right.
And most people don't realize it because the deeds look the same. But in Massachusetts, you have the recorded land side. And you also have the land court or registered land side. The registered land was authorized by the state legislature back in 1900. And so someone took the time to make sure that they got lawyers involved, they got engineers involved, they got title examiners involved to get the land registered in with the land court. And so in Norfolk County, 80% of the land is recorded land, and 20% of the land is registered land or land court. But for the consumer, I mean, the lawyers know the difference, but for the consumers, it's, they really wouldn't know that. It's kind of inside baseball, I guess, seeing that the World Series is on.
Tell me a little bit about that second part.
The land court, well, there
I
are
understand the first part of that, the 80% part,
Yeah.
but that second part, tell me about that.
What I think happened is someone took the time to register the land because there was probably some title issues they had to straighten out.
Okay.
And there are some protections. Theoretically, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts backs up that land against any title issues or any problems like that. And there are things written into the statute that protect people. For instance, if I put a fence up over your land and I did it for 21 years, I could take your land by adverse possession. However, if you have registered or land court land, you can't do that. Yeah, so there are some things in the statute, if it's registered land, that it's a little bit more protected.
Has that ever happened?
Adverse possession? Oh, there's adverse possession cases, I'm sure.
No kidding.
But as far as, at the registry, it's really, I call it an accident of history. Someone took the time to register the land, and it's as simple as this. When you come to our beautiful building at 649 High Street, you go to the right for recorded land, you go to the left for registered or land court land.
Okay. All right. Interesting stuff here. I thought we'd try to deal with some of it. This is what's this? Get my right page here. See, I know that your secretary expected I would remember all this. Talk about the electronic recording system that you have. Is
Sure.
that valued for discussion?
Yeah. Well, it's just another one of the modernization initiatives that have taken place at the registry. The big modernization initiative, and the thing probably I'm most proud of, is we have internet land record research. So if your viewers go to www.norfolkdeeds.org, they can actually look up this information. And if they go on our website, we have information for first-time home buyers, for people that are struggling with foreclosure. So what we've tried to do is use these advances in technology to make the registry more relevant and try to get the registry records into people's homes and businesses.
Oh, you want people to be able to use the system?
Well, people can.
Not like you, like I could use the system.
You could, and if you go on our website, we open the building up a couple of times a year where we teach people. And it's not just for lawyers or title examiners. Real estate brokers come in, regular citizens come in. We just had a program for government officials, people that work in the town halls or who have been elected to some of these volunteer boards, like the Conservation Commission or the Board of Appeals, that they can learn how to use the system to look up information. And so we're very proud of that, because when I got there, there was no internet land record research. So that's just something that we've implemented. And it allows people.
Since 2002.
Since 2002.
Yeah, there were computers around then, but I guess not as sophisticated.
No, it was just, well, there were computers around, but the idea of there's over 6 million documents at the registry to get all that information cut over. And it needed to be done not just to make the records.
Is that all electronically recorded?
Well, electronic recording is another.
You still got a lot of paper.
Well, when I took over the operation in 2002, there was I called it a paralysis of paper. There was literally a year's worth of mail with documents that needed to be recorded sitting there. Now, with the new technology, when you come in, yes, it's paper, but it's processed instantaneously. You get a receipt when you pay your money. You get a booking page. And all that information is scanned in. So now our records go back to 1793. That's when Norfolk County was established. If you went to Book 1, Page 1, that first document from 1793 can be viewed by the public, by your citizens at home.
What happens to the paper?
Well,
you still keep the paper.
I'll tell you what, not all of it. We are in. I love history, and that's not. I'm not trying to duck the question, because we're still one of the few registries in Massachusetts that print books. A lot of my fellow registrars have taken pride in stopping printing books. I'm the opposite. I still print the books.
You print the book. Okay.
But everything is on
How
the computer.
How often is the book printed?
Yeah. So what we do is this, and it's kind of some people like doing it the old-fashioned way too. I was mentioning to you, my dad's 87, and when I was telling him all the stuff we're doing, a modernization and bringing the computers, he says, "Hey, remember, some of us don't know anything about computers, don't want to know anything about computers. So we still have a customer service center that people can call and get help." But that's another reason I do the books. Some people prefer to do the books and not the computer.
How often do you do the book? How often do you?
We print them. We print them.
Do you just update it?
No, as they come in. When I first started, it was at book 17,000. We're approaching book 36,000. So all these documents that come in, we scan them in. So all those documents are backed up. We've, again, trying to apply some private sector thinking. We back up the records. We have a disaster recovery plan so that the records don't get lost. And when you think about it, what happened in down in New Orleans with the floods? Wonder if that happened here. So one of the reasons we back things up is we can recreate all these records. So I look at it as far as disaster recovery. One way of making sure the records are preserved, we print the books, and we still print the books. We also, by law, have to microfilm. So we microfilm every document that's been recorded at the registry. We have microfilm, and that gets stored off-site.
Yeah, you do two things then.
Preservation. And then the third thing, as far as disaster recovery, is weekly and daily we back up all that. The tape drives all get backed up, and they get sent to a renovated nuclear bunker owned by Iron Mountain down in Rhode Island. Again, stored off-site. And what we've done, if something physically happens to the building, it's at 649 High Street in Dedham, right across from Norfolk Superior Court, the Gold Dome building in downtown Dedham. We have a little building down the street where we've put like a mini office in, so that if something happens to the building at 649 High Street, we can open the door and at least record. Because if you were selling your house or buying a house, you want to make sure you're able to do it. So those are kind of the steps we've taken for disaster recovery and business continuity planning. And it's all kind of a function of the advances in technology. I mean, one of the reasons we're doing the things on the internet is because of taking advantage of the technology. And you mentioned electronic recording. That wasn't even around till a few years ago. Electronic recording is a lawyer here in Wellesley could do the closing in his office. They go online, make sure there's no liens, and they transmit those documents over the internet, and we record. So we have implemented that, and just within the last January, the legislature passed a law that allowed us to do it on the land court side. We were mentioning the land court.
Okay.
We were always doing it on the 80% side, the recorded land side.
Yeah.
So we just started last spring recording on the land court, or that 20% side. So electronic recording, we have 28 communities from Bellingham to Wellesley down to Brookline and Cohasset. So these the people that use the registry like it because they can do the work in their office and send the documents in.
Tell me about the Homestead Act.
Well, the Homestead Act is a pretty big, consumer issue, and it's great you asked that question because, I'm an attorney by training, and sometimes you talk to 10 different attorneys, you might get 10 different opinions on something, but I would say 9.9 out of 10 would say you should have a homestead. And the homestead, at least in Massachusetts, the state legislature has written the Homestead Act, which allows somebody to declare an estate a homestead on their principal residence, and only on their principal residence. And what it does, it sort of puts a picket fence around your home so they can't force the sale of your home. Now, that means if you don't pay the town of Wellesley, they can take your property by tax title. If you don't pay a bank, they can foreclose on you.
Is there a limited time limit in that?
Well, no. A homestead is good as long as you own your principal residence. Now, if you had your house in Wellesley and decided to sell it and downsize to a condominium in Wellesley, you'd have to put a new homestead on. The homestead is only as good as long as you own that particular piece of property. When I first started, the homestead protection was $300,000, and it's been increased to $500,000.
Wait a minute, protection. Talk about that. What do you mean protection?
Well, in the statute, the legislators, and you got to thank your local legislators. It was written that there's $300,000 is the protection under the homestead.
What's that mean?
Well, it means that theoretically, now it's up to $500,000. I say for all intents and purposes, what I see down at court is, I know Wellesley has some affluent homes. The intent of the legislature is to say that the home is off limits as far as forcing the sale of a home. So from a practical standpoint, I think the judges down at court are like, look at, your house might be worth more than the $500,000. We're not going to be, just because you have value in your house doesn't mean we're going to sell it. The intent is to keep people in their homes.
Oh.
Now, the creditors are still going to chase you and try to do things to get collected.
Right.
But someone might say, well, what's an example of why I might need a homestead? I always tell people, well, we all, drive cars. And sometimes people might think they have a lot of insurance. Maybe they have $100,000 worth of insurance on their car, but they hit someone in a crosswalk and there's a $400,000 case there. Well, your insurance company is probably just going to pay that $100,000 over, and they're going to start looking to your assets for the other, $300,000. So I think the homestead's a good consumer protection. No substitute for having good insurance, but sometimes you get yourself in trouble, and at least the homestead would protect the biggest asset most people have, their homes, and it also it affords protections in other ways. If you have a homestead recorded and you sell your house, those proceeds are protected, again, for a limited period of time. But under the homestead, a creditor can't swoop in and go after the proceeds for a limited period of time, 1 year. Or just say your house burnt down and the insurance company gave you a check to rebuild. If you have a homestead recorded, your creditors can't swoop in and try to collect on that casualty insurance check. So to give you, again, that is 2 years under the statute. So it gives you a chance to try to build your house back up.
Do people who buy homes know this kind of stuff?
Well, I think it shows
And
like
do
this
real
is
estate
great.
dealers,
I think there's more education, Richard. I know when I was an attorney, when you mentioned homesteads, I think they'd always look kind of like, oh, the lawyer's just trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
But I think there's more, I know there's been more outreach, the Registry of Deeds is a sleepy arm of government, but one of the things we try to do is do outreach on why you should check your mortgages, why you should have a homestead recorded. So I think it's a combination of more outreach. I think people are a little more sophisticated, and I think people check the internet more, and there's more education about the issue.
yeah,
And
but
I think
it's
the
an
real
individual
estate
initiative, though, not part of the fabric of the real estate market.
Well, it's more so now because one of the new statutes, the lawyers have to, mention it at the closing. I mean, when I was
They
back in
do?
private practice, I would mention it at the closing, but a lot of times people would just dismiss it as, oh, the attorney's just trying to have me record something,
What, is there a cost to it?
It's one of the, again, the filing fees that are set by the state legislature. We collect the monies at the registry. It's relatively modest compared to some of the other fees, and it's a $36 filing fee. So it's a relatively modest filing fee of $36 to have this recorded.
One-time fee.
Yes, and with respect to the homestead, if you need to download a form, if you go to our website, www.norfolkdeeds.org, you can download a form. And the only reason I mention that, and you should go to an attorney if you want to talk to it, but there are some groups out there that, for instance, there's a group out there, they target the elderly with this letter. They get you a free homestead. They get you a homestead form for $15. They don't fill out the homestead form for you or record it. You just give them $15 for a form that you can get free. So there's all kinds of these scams out there. There's a deed scam where one group used to send a letter out saying you need to get a certified copy of your deed, and they would do it for $60, and they would come to the registry and pay $2 to get that $60 certified copy. So if you need a certified copy of your deed, you can come to the Registry of Deeds directly, or a lot of times we're at office hours. We were just recently in Wellesley at the town hall. We have office hours. We certify it there as a courtesy for free.
So where are office hours in town hall?
We go to all 28 community. We try to have an outreach, and some of it's probably my background. Working for Joe Moakley, he always said you got to take care of the residents and the constituents. And so what we do is, Wellesley, you have a beautiful town hall. They're very gracious. They let us set up in the selectman's office, and we bring our computers because people can come in. They might not know if they have a homestead recorded. People can come in and check their mortgages.
When you set this office up, what is the purpose for setting the office up, and who's informed and who comes to you?
We just have a lot of the residents come by.
How do they know you're there?
If they could check our website and know we're there. And the towns are great. Wellesley's great about putting it out on their website, and sometimes the paper puts it in, to come by. So the beauty of this technology is that we bring our computers so that when I first started, it was the old-fashioned way. I'd have to take the notes and run back to the registry and then call them back, and they needed something else, the back and forth. Here you have the computers, and we get it all done. Some people pay off their mortgages, but the document that tells the world that mortgage has been paid off, a mortgage discharge, hasn't been recorded. Sometimes it hasn't been recorded because mostly the bigger banks didn't send the mortgage discharge in. Sometimes the banks never made clear to the people that document that they sent had to be taken to the registry to get recorded. So you want to make sure that the mortgage discharge is recorded. So when you pay off your loans, that's great. But you want to make sure that there's a document that tells the world that it's been paid off. And you got to remember, a lot of banks went out of business or merged. And if you go to our website,
the housing market killed a lot of banks.
Well, when the banks went bankrupt, that's a big title issue.
Yeah.
But some of the banks that merged, we have a document, Where Has My Bank Gone? And if you go onto our website, we have federal and state contact information where you can contact these government groups that will tell you what bank became what. And we also have links to the Attorney General's office, for some help there too. Because it's not an insurmountable problem, Richard, if you have to get your mortgage discharged, but you do have to track it down. And I'm a big believer in community banking. I think some of the larger banks, people forget when we had troubles in 2008, 2009. I think some of these larger banks don't always follow the recording rules. I'm a big believer in the community banks. You go down to your local community bank, hey, I need a mortgage discharge. They can look it up. The vice president's probably in the next room. They can get the discharge for you, and you're on your way. But some of the bigger banks, we find that the consumers have to chase it a little, and it is an issue, and it's just, again, another consumer issue, much like the Homestead, that when we have these town hall office hours, people come by and want to look this information up, or just get a copy of their deed.
And you can do it right there and then.
Yeah, we do it right there. That's the beauty of the computers, and
well, you just talked about that mortgage discharge.
It's something, you'd rather check on those things when you're not under the gun to sell. You don't want that called 3 days before.
Do people know this kind of stuff?
Well, we try to do it in outreach, whether it's talking about it when we have those computer seminars. We mention it to people, and by the end of the day, at the end of the night, they're looking up their own mortgages. But if not, they can call our customer service department. I mentioned my dad said that how people aren't very interested in computers. The other thing that came out of that is we created a customer service department. So if you call that number 1-781-461-6101, the people that answer the phone can look the information up, or come by our office hours and we'll look that up for you.
All right. How about this consumer notification service? And what is it? Fraud property?
Yeah. So again, it's just trying to be proactive. Maybe some of it was my experience working in the district attorney's office and in the private sector. Hey, sometimes people don't always do the right thing. And the FBI says one of the fastest growing white-collar crime nationally deals with property fraud and mortgage fraud. Now, what we've done at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds is to have a consumer notification service. It's an anti-fraud program, and I've signed up myself. You sign up, you can do it online, and you get notified. My name's Bill O'Donnell. Anytime a Bill O'Donnell document comes through, it might be William J. O'Donnell. I'm William P. O'Donnell. You get notified. Now, some people might think that's inconvenient, but I get notified. I look it up. It's, great. It has nothing to do with me.
How does the notification go? By mail?
No, email. You sign up by email.
Okay.
Again, so it's instantaneous. You get this
Most
email.
people don't have email. What happens to the people that don't have
well,
email? We're assuming that everybody has email.
you're right. Well, I'll have to think on that one. But how this system works, again, try to be getting rid of the paper that you talked about earlier, is you sign up, you get notified, and there's going to be a time, hopefully it won't happen, when I'm going to look up that document and say, wait a minute, that's my deed. I didn't sign that, or that's a mortgage to my house. I didn't sign that. Now, I haven't seen that type of fraud in Norfolk County, but you hear about it in other parts of the country, so I always feel it's only a matter of time before it gets this way. And it doesn't prevent the fraud, but you can see if you sign this up and you get an email and you check, and you're like, okay, that's not me. But the one time it is you, we do have links to the law enforcement agencies here in Norfolk County. It doesn't prevent the fraud, but it can get you to get on it right away, so that you do know about it and say, hey, wait a minute, that's my house, but I didn't sign that. And that's not, I didn't sign that deed, or I didn't sign that mortgage. So that's just something. We were the first registry here in Massachusetts to implement it, and it seems to be working. People sign up, and to me.
So you are getting people who do come to you for that service?
Oh, yeah. We have about 700 people have signed up, and I think it's just a matter of getting the word out, and more people will sign up. And
Is that a big number, 700?
Well, it's a start. I mean, when you see how there's 28 communities in Norfolk County, it's a start. And sometimes we don't do things until something happens to us, and sometimes that's too late. So I leave it up to people, if more people sign up. But I think it is a good service in this sense.
What would you like to see the number?
I don't know. As many as we can.
Are you quick to handle large numbers?
Yeah, because it's all one thing I know, I try to have a good staff, and my IT staff is saying they can handle it. So
okay. How many people are working in your office?
We have like 40 people working at the registry.
Okay.
Yeah. And
they're all in one place?
Dedham. Yeah.
You don't have satellites?
No. Some other registries did that. I did a survey. I sent a survey out, and this is back, as I said, when it was all paper driven. We had just started putting the computers in and putting the internet in, and I sent the survey out. Would people rather have satellite offices? And what we got back was people would rather have had the resources devoted to the internet. And I think some people could see that if you set up satellites, it can be expensive. First of all, if I was going to do a satellite, it has to be like free rent. And a lot of, you go to a town hall or something, but a lot of town halls are short on space.
Yeah.
So what I did was put the resources into the internet. And that's why we're back to 1793. Every document is available. Our indexes, so if you ran my name, Bill O'Donnell, when we first started, it was Bill O'Donnell back to 1990s, and then it was 1970. Our current index is back to 1900. And you might say, well, wait a minute, I thought you said the registry goes from 1793. By the end of this year, we will have that index back to 1793.
Okay. All right.
But to give you a sense of the scope, from 1793 to 1900, that's only 861 books. I mentioned to you we're approaching book 36,000, so we have over 35,000 books completely indexed. And we have the old indexes from 1793 online, but you have to look up the names. When this project is done, if you run, say, John Adams, one of the presidents here from the United States. We've had 4 presidents born in Norfolk County. If you ran, you will be able to run his name, and it will take all the John Adamses back to 1793. So that's what I've done, was try to take the resources. We don't have satellite offices, but I think it was the right move, because I think people recognize that they'd rather work on the computer. I still believe in the old-fashioned way. That's why we do outreach. We go not only to the town halls, as we mentioned, Richard, before, but I've taken that computer to the veterans organizations. I've taken it to Lions clubs. I've taken it to Rotaries. I've taken it to the senior centers where, they ask you to talk about the registry, and then, we have the computers there. So we still believe in the old-fashioned kind of outreach, and that's the other reason we have that customer service department. Because as I said, I remember what my dad said, some people just want to come in and have it done for them, and they can't.
Come in and have a drink and a cigar.
Yeah, you'll be getting me in trouble.
Let's see. This is, sometimes I can't see the stuff because I don't have my glasses on. But this project, what is that?
Transcription project, sure. Well, here's what happened there. I mentioned we have documents back to 1793.
Yeah.
From 1793 to 1900, all those documents were handwritten. So the register in 1900 probably talked about his modernization initiative, the typewriter. The typewriter came in 1900. So what we've done is all those handwritten documents, those are the legal documents, they're online, you can look them up.
Okay.
The transcription project started because sometimes it's hard to read those documents, whether you got your glasses on or not. Very hard to read those documents because they're handwritten.
Yeah.
And
History comes alive.
Well, history is coming alive. Actually, history can't come alive if you can't read the documents. So we got, as I said, 4 presidents born in Norfolk County. John Hancock was born over in Quincy. There's a lot of history, in Norfolk County. Mm-hmm. But really, the people that, again, the lawyers, the title examiners, the transcription project, they really like the transcription project because we've transcribed the handwritten document. So it approached over 450,000 documents. I just started out with deeds, which, because I figured, that's what people are very interested in. But we've expanded it and we've finished that project. So all the handwritten documents, when you view them online, if you hit the next button, the typed version comes on. The lawyers and the people that are involved in real estate, the title examiners, engineers, they like it because that's really what the mission is. It's about real estate. Mm-hmm. But we're finding a lot of people are using the registry now for historical and genealogical research.
Interesting.
And they really kind of like it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of interesting information in some of the deeds and a lot of history. And another reason I did it, I mentioned I have 3 children. My youngest now is a junior in college, but I noticed when he graduated high school a few years ago, and I had started the project before then because I was more concerned about the real estate part of it.
Right.
I did notice a lot of the young kids don't seem to know cursive. And you got to remember, the documents from 1793 to 1900 are all handwritten out.
Scribble.
Now,
Scribble.
So hopefully they'll, people will know cursive. But I started thinking a couple of generations from now, they might not know it. So at least we'll have a typed version. But so that was.
Can you still read those?
They're harder to. Oh, you have to really look at them.
Very difficult.
And the beauty of the computer, though, is, we have the books, and you can go to the books, but the computer, you can zoom in and zoom out and kind of really enlarge the words and things. But it is difficult, and that's one of the reasons we did this transcription project is there's a lot of great history here in Norfolk County, and a lot of interesting people have lived in Norfolk County. But I always, that's the trivia. I don't tell good jokes or anything, but 4 presidents were born in Norfolk County. There was John Adams.
Who were they?
Yeah, John Adams, John Quincy Adams,
Yeah.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy over in Brookline,
Yeah.
and George Herbert Walker Bush was born in Milton. So
right.
4 presidents in Norfolk County.
Tell me about the assignment bill legislation.
Yes, the assignment bill, we do, from time to time, have to, go up to Beacon Hill to try to, things come up in real estate. As a matter of fact, that homestead bill.
How old is the homestead bill?
Well, the homestead has been around a long time, but what they did is they increased it in 2004. That's from, making people aware.
What's its initial date?
Oh, I know the homestead was around when my dad bought in Norwood in 1960. Of course, he didn't put one on either because no one told him about it. But I've done research.
Yeah.
But as far as legislation, sometimes you have to go up there and lobby for things. There were changes to the homestead legislation that went into effect March 16, 2011. For instance, you could, if you have a property in trust, the legislature, and you should thank your local legislators. I know Representative Peisch is from Wellesley. They made changes that if someone has a property in trust, they can put a homestead on. They made changes. There was language in mortgages that terminated your homestead, some people would argue.
You're kidding.
No one reads the 30 pages that you sign on the mortgage, and there was one sentence.
Are that many pages in a mortgage?
Yeah, well, which is why we probably, some of the books, it's volume, but some of it's because of the length of the documents.
What is all the language?
Well, we live in a litigious society. But
30 pages in a mortgage.
But there was only one sentence, there was a one-sentence paragraph that terminated your homestead. Now, what I did, I went to a local community bank.
And that's somewhere in the back in small language, right?
Well, it's not that small. If you read it, you read it. But a lot of times people don't really know the effect of these things. And I remember saying to my bank, hey, because you got kids going to college, you're refinancing, all that. I said, hey, if I don't pay, you can foreclose, get that out. And of course they didn't. I just put another homestead on because I didn't want someone 20 years from now saying my homestead was terminated. Well, thank you, local legislators, because what they did in 2011 was say, look, if that language is in these mortgages, it doesn't terminate your homestead. Again, the effective date of that legislation was March 16, 2011. So if you did something before, you might want to take a look at that. But I think that was a good thing, because what they said is if the banks have that language in, it doesn't terminate your homestead. And that's a good thing, because,
I was very lucky. I never had a mortgage in Wellesley.
Yeah. Well,
nor in Brookline.
Yeah, well, in Brookline, also part of Norfolk County. And so sometimes, whether it's the homestead or in this case, the mortgage assignment bill, you have to make your concerns up to the state representatives and the state senators, and we did that. And what we're doing now is, it's not a requirement on the 80% side of land, the recorded land side, that you have to record assignments. You do have to record assignments on the land court side.
Okay.
And what we're finding is that we believe it's in the interest of the consumer, and it sort of makes things transparent to the consumer. When these mortgages get sold, if the assignments were recorded, all the consumer would have to do is look up the internet, because we have it all on the internet, and they could see who's holding their mortgage.
Yeah, but this says this is proposed. It's not yet enacted.
No, it's House Bill 790 and Senate Bill 880. About a month ago, I testified in front of the Judiciary Committee, and it may not pass because some of the big banks don't want to record assignments. The big institutions.
Why is that?
I think it all comes down to money personally, but I don't know. I don't think their arguments necessarily fly. To me, people just should, people are paying $175 to record their mortgage. They should at least be able to know who's holding that mortgage. So that what the legislation does is say, look, when these mortgages get assigned, the assignments have to be recorded. And that way, people can just look up the computer and see who that mortgage has been assigned to. And we're only doing it for residential property. We're not doing it for commercial. It's only for residential.
Only for what?
It's only for residential mortgages.
Residential?
Yeah, just residential, because we haven't been able to get it passed. So we do have over 67 sponsors, but we're slogging away, Richard. The legislative process. The legislative process sometimes goes slower.
How long has this been in ops?
This will be the third legislative session, so this will be the 5th and 6th year. So each legislative session is a 2-year, and this is our third legislative session trying to get it through.
In the proposal stage for that long?
Well, the bill has been written. It's just sometimes you got to get the bill through a lot of hoops to get it into law. Yeah, you got to get it into law.
The legislators got to vote on it.
Well, in fairness to the legislators on this, we've had good support here in Norfolk County, and I got to tell you, they did a nice job. We mentioned electronic recording earlier. Yeah. We have electronic recording in the land court, which is the registered land side of the registry, because the local legislators in the 2-year session, the last 2-year session, voted that. So it only took 2 years to get that bill through that we could do electronic recording on the land court. It got signed into law by the governor in January.
Why it take so long? 2 years?
Gee, I thought we were doing good in 2 years. You got to get it through committees.
Why is this taking so long?
Well, because there's opposition. Just because I think it's a good bill,
are the banks the principal opposers?
It's a big group, MERS.
It's
one of the bigger, MERS. It's a big outfit. So they're the chief opponents. And I think sometimes people are afraid of change. My whole thing is, look at, I think it makes everything more transparent. Yeah. For the consumer. Yeah. Also, there's a recording fee. I mean, most of that money is lost opportunity would go to most of the money we collect goes into the state. Mm-hmm. That's not the principal reason for doing it. For me, it's the consumer knowing, because we see it all the time. Or when people go, hey, I got to check my mortgage to see if it was discharged, and all of a sudden it was like, well, wait a minute, that group, that's not who I'm paying my thing to, and it's just the assignments were never recorded. And the reason why I think assignments should be recorded, just say you need to track down your mortgage discharge. It would be good, you know, you'd have that chain. Here was the mortgage, here it got assigned to, okay, now I know who I have to go to get my mortgage discharge. So it takes, I understand it takes time, but the land court bill, that took 2 years, but there are a lot of hearings, a lot of changes, you know, change comes
Who does
slowly.
the lobbying on your legislation?
Oh, basically, it's just our local, you know, registers of deeds. You
have to go forward.
Yeah, no, we go. I view it as part of the job. I view part of this job is outreach, like we're doing here tonight. Part of it is management, and part of it is innovation, trying to use the advances in technology to make that registry operate more. And then I think part of the job as the register is to, you know, on things like the Homestead or some of this legislation is to get up and do it. And
so one of the tools you use in lobbying the legislature, are those secret? Or?
No. I think the tool is communication. You know, write letters. You go up. You talk.
You have your favorite legislators, so you.
They're all favorite. They're all my favorite. They're all my favorite up there. All the Norfolk County legislators are my favorite.
So you bend their ears.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Give them a cigar too.
Bruce ears. You said There's all kinds. But they're good, and it's. And legislation, you know, there are a lot of bills, but not all of them become law. So when they do become law, we feel very fortunate.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of democracy.
Well, yeah, you know.
I think.
Yeah,
I used to think.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right.
But that must be fun, though.
Well, it's part. You know, it's
it's challenging and fun. I can't. My finger's not working right here. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Let's say, what about, what are your current projects now?
Well, some of the current projects, you know, I mentioned that 1793, we've finished up that transcription project.
Yeah.
I mentioned another current project, that index project. You know, we're back to 1900 on the index.
Okay.
Well, I would say by the end of this year, we'll be back to 1793. We have it done. We just haven't rolled it out yet because we used the transcription project where we were transcribing all those documents to double check the indexes, you know, just to make sure they're accurate. Another project that we're doing, and it's more a hobby because of the history. We've been looking up for notable land records. I mentioned 4 presidents born in Norfolk County, but I was also looking not just for political people, but maybe a businessman, Howard Johnson, you know, born in Quincy. Mr. Rosenberg, founder of Dunkin' Donuts. Just different people.
Rosenberg's founder of Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah.
What's his first name?
It's, you know, it's not clicking right now. But for instance, Mary Pratt. Mary Pratt, they did that movie, League of Your Own.
Yeah.
You know, again, so we're trying to look up, some of it's historical, some of it is cultural. Hal Holbrook, one of the actors, lived in Weymouth.
Yeah.
And trying to tie some of the records, you know, whether it's, we've had Medal of Honor winners, you know, lived in Norfolk County. So I'm trying to look up like a deed or something, and then have a little biography of what they're about. I mean, we've had, you know, governors. You know, Governor Dukakis was in Brookline. Governor Patrick lived in Milton. My hometown of Norwood in the 1920s, there was a Governor Allen. You know, so just some history. Justice Brandeis lived in Dedham. So we're just trying to look, Horace Mann, you know, so a lot of historical figures. So that's just kind of a fun project. You know, I try to keep the eye on the ball. That's the fun project. The real thing is to make sure the registry's running well. When people bring the documents in to be recorded, they're recorded that day. They're recorded efficiently. I'm always worried, you know, with the internet. You know, you do disaster recovery so that if there's a problem, we can be up and running. You get worried. We do have, and I've had people come in and assess threats and all that. But you know, as they say, it's not when someone hacks in. It's not if someone hacks in, it's when. So these are the things you try to keep your eye on the ball. But all the documents have been scanned into the computer. They're available online. All the plans. So all the plans have been recorded. So,
Plans for what?
well, just say whether you mentioned Brookline or Wellesley, if there was a piece of land, there was a subdivision, the planning board would have to sign off and approve those plans that the developer brought in. Those plans then get recorded at the registry. So, all kinds of documents are recorded at the registry. A lot of times the consumer likes to look up the plans because it shows the meets and bounds of their property, how much frontage they have, how deep is their lot,
okay.
Is there an easement recorded
plans.
over there? Yeah, so land plans. So when these properties got developed, someone took the time to record the plans. So that's what we've tried to do, is to make sure we
Now, is
we
that
have
a new project?
No, that's been ongoing. The registers prior to me, were doing that, and we're doing it. What's new about it, I think, is that all of them are now on the internet. Before they were all like, the plans were there, but then we had to scan them in, so that's been done. And I mentioned the microfilm. My predecessors were microfilming the prior documents. What we've worked on is some of the projects that my predecessor started was, you got to check your microfilm. Even though it's stored there, they have this vinegar syndrome, and luckily we don't have that problem where, they were stored so long, the microfilm got eaten up. But, my predecessors were great about checking on those things, and I've tried to continue that tradition. So the microfilm is always being examined and reviewed and redone.
So you have to keep renewing the thing.
Well, again, a microfilm does help because, if something happened, you at least have a record you could try to recreate.
Okay. All right. Outreach. You've been talking a lot about outreach effort in the area. You want to say any more about the outreach effort?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, but really, if there's groups out there, we go and talk. Sometimes people need a speaker or that, and what we try to do is much like what you're trying to do. People say, well, why do I want to listen to the Registry of Deeds? But as I tell people, hey, the biggest asset is your home, and there's a lot of things people might not know about, and you've touched upon. Recording a homestead, making sure a homestead's recorded. That protects your home. Your mortgages, hey, when you pay them off, you want to make sure that mortgage discharge tells the world they've been paid off. So when we go to, like I said, we've gone to veterans groups, we've gone to the senior centers, we've gone to the Lions, the Rotaries, there's retired women's clubs, there's retired men's clubs. We've spoken to a variety of groups. Just last week we spoke down the street at the Needham Business Association. So we try to do the outreach because we do think that even though the registry might be a sleepy arm of government, it has important information that I think is relevant to the consumer and to the property owner.
Well, let's see now. Well, we're getting close to the end of your document here.
Well,
and you didn't think we'd get there, did you?
No. Well, I don't know what's in that document, but we'll keep going.
Well, you don't know what's in it.
You just asked me.
You wrote it probably. How about philanthropic efforts?
Oh, well,
of the deeds.
If you go on our website, www.norfolkdeeds.org, that's a good point. And yes, some of it is geared to the research and all that. But on our website, we try to use it as an information tool. So first-time home buyers can get information. For people, it doesn't matter if you live in Wellesley, Brookline. There are affluent communities, but every community in Norfolk County, someone has struggled with foreclosure. And we've partnered up with community groups, nonprofit community groups, Quincy Community Action Program and NeighborWorks of Southern Massachusetts. And there are links on our website to them, so that if you're struggling with foreclosure, if you get a notice to foreclose, then take advantage. These groups they will give you guidance, they'll give you advice. They're not like some of these groups that are charging you. They're nonprofit, and that's why we linked up with them, because they work with people to try to keep them in the house.
Name some of these groups that do that.
The two groups that we've partnered up with are the Quincy Community Action Program and Neighbor Works of Southern Massachusetts. And they cover every community here in Norfolk County. They've expanded it as part of our partnership. So if you go on our website and you live in a certain community, we have the contact information to those two groups. They do a lot of financial literacy, bringing people in, trying to get people to see their issues. Sometimes they help the people because maybe it's just a sickness or bad luck, something, and they get them through it. Other times
this is without charge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and other times they have that hard conversation that, hey, you may not be able to stay in the house. You might have to consider transitioning to other shelter, as far as getting some rent money up or things like that. So the thing we were finding is we have nothing to do with foreclosures other than we see it at the beginning when someone is in trouble. A notice to foreclose gets recorded at the registry, and we see it at the end when a foreclosure deed is recorded. So we just take the documents, but I thought that would be something. It was good to partner up, and they reach out to the people that are struggling. So if you know somebody, or if people are watching this, and reach out and get the advice and get the help early on in the process. Don't wait till they're at the door, auctioning your house off. There's a lot of time leading up to that. Take advantage of that and see if you can get the help to try to get some advice on the situation you're in. So, but as far as other things, we try to be community committed. We've partnered up. We've collected suits. Women's suits and men's suits, women clothes, pocketbooks, things like that at the registry. It's like Filene's basement. I know I'm dating myself. Down in the plan room downstairs, there's like Filene's basement. And what we do, it's been a drop-off point. And
where you drop off boxes?
They drop them to the registry, and then what we do is we take them. We partnered up with Father Bill's in Mainspring. They're what they do. They deal. Well, they have people that are homeless, and they try to get.
Where is this again?
Father Bill's place. It's in Quincy and Mainspring and Brockton.
What's Mainspring?
It's an organization where they try to, some people. Some of it is people that are homeless, and some of it's the working poor, where they use this information. They use the suits and try to get people on their feet. Sometimes people just need a suit because they're going for an interview, and so they've done that. And then there's the Interfaith Social Services in Quincy has a career closet where we donate a lot of clothes there. They have, and again, they were the first group that had women's clothing. Women who were going for interview that maybe were working poor or in a tough spot. They could come in, get some items, so maybe present a little better in the interview. Some of it's free. Some of it it's Father Bill's free. Other place they sell it like a thrift shop, but the other ones are free. And we've recently partnered up with the VA, the veterans down in Jamaica Plain. They've taken a lot of clothes for veterans who need it, all ages, all situations, and we just give it to them, and they take care of it, give it out free. So that's kind of one. We've had that going for a while, and it's grown, and we're very proud.
Yeah, but you're partners with them. You don't really do.
Oh no, we just give them the clothes, and they're the ones that do. They're the one. We just collect the clothes. They do the real hard work of dealing with the people and making sure things are done the right way. And a new group we just partnered up with, it's called New Life Home Refurnishings. They have a warehouse.
Not hard to guess what they do.
Yeah. Well, they have a warehouse in Wellesley.
Yeah.
I mean, Walpole.
Okay.
And people that use that group have to get referred there by a social agent. Over 100 social agencies are partnered up with this group where it's referral based. So there has to be a referral from a church or some of the social agencies we have in here in Massachusetts. What we do at the registry, we collect for them silverware, blankets, comforters, towels. They collect other
Home
things.
goods.
If you go to their website, they're located at 102 Elm Street in Walpole. They take mattresses, they take furniture, and they refurnish it and fix it up so that people who are struggling at least can have a bed in the room. Or they retool some of the kitchen tables and things so people can have furniture. So we can't collect the furniture. What we do is at the registry, we collect the things like the glassware, the software, the cookingware, things that we can kind of fit in downstairs in our plan room, along with the Filene's basement over there. The big ticket items, they can go directly to New Life Home Refurnishings. But what we thought it had a nice tie into the real estate. Sometimes people, whether they're renting or owning a home, sometimes they're struggling, and this group does a nice job of helping people out. And to me, that's a little, it's a little newer, but I'm kind of glad we're doing it. It's kind of built on the same foundation of the Suits for Success. So we do the Toys for Tots during the holidays. We've partnered up from, probably since I've been there with the Marines to do programs like that. So I think it's always good to try to do a little out, help people out a little bit, and so we try to use, because you remember 28 communities use the registry, and people come in, and a lot of times people say, hey, I'm going to come back with the various items, and they do, and we appreciate it.
And you say, don't bring them here.
Oh, no, bring them to us. No, we collect them. It's just we will get them to the other places. Oh, we collect the clothes.
You don't hang on to them, huh?
No, and during the holidays from Thanksgiving through Christmas, we do a food drive, and if you go on our website, we list all the food pantries in Norfolk County because they need food all year. So we do a food drive.
Toys for Tots program.
The Toys for Tots program, that's with the Marines, and it's been, a lot of it is a function of where we are, because in the building, at the Registry of Deeds building, the grand jury's upstairs, the jurors collect upstairs, so a lot of people use the building, and we try to use that, and it's great. The employees have been great, the people that use the registry have been great, and the Toys for Tots is a good thing for the holidays, so through the Marines, we collect items that get distributed during
Marine
the Christmas.
Reserve?
Yep, the United States Marine Corps Reserve. Yep.
Where are they located?
They're out of, the warehouse they bring is in Quincy. They use a warehouse that they get the items to.
Yeah.
But they have other, we've been fortunate to be through a partnership for probably, like I said, probably coming on 15 years. We're a drop-off point, and then they come. They come by with their van, and they get it to their main warehouse, and off they go.
If they have a main place in Quincy?
Yeah, they were using a warehouse in Quincy.
Who all belongs to that reserve unit? What communities? Just
Oh no, it's the United States Marine Corps. It's
active duty.
No, it's the reserve. The reserves do it. The United States Marine Corps reserves. But no, they come in uniform, and some of them have just returned from active duty. That come and pick up the toys and things.
Where are their headquarters? Do they have a headquarters?
Well, I know some of the reserves had done time in Weymouth. When it was open a long time ago. But but they come in uniform, and some of them are young and some of them are old, but I'll give them credit. I think that's a great program that they've put in place.
What's the tech fund?
The tech fund, and again, I got to thank the legislators. The tech fund allows it's a fund that came through the state that has allowed us to do some of these modernization initiatives. Whether it's getting scanning equipment, better equipment, doing projects, getting the indexing.
This is a fund for you for the deed.
Well, it's a fund. It's a fund that gets collected through fee, like a part of that fee that goes into the state. We apply for the tech fund, and it's allowed us to do a lot of the things that we've talked about here. Whether it's the transcription project, better equipment. If you come by the registry, we have over 50 computers sprinkled around the registry building. So that's not just for the lawyers or the title examiners. Anyone can use them, to use those computers to do research. And so it's allowed us to do a lot of these.
Some of the stuff you're doing is not built into your annual budget. It comes through other sources. Is that right?
Yeah, in the tech fund was very helpful.
Yeah. What are the improvements to the registry building?
Oh, well, that's mostly through the budget. You know, one thing I think it probably happens in all towns is, sometimes people just in households just try to make ends meet, and the capital projects that need to get done probably get pushed off. So some of the things we've done recently, in 2015, everyone remembers those big snowstorms and everything. You know, the building leaked and everything. Well, new roof had to be put on. The building, our building is a nice building. It was built in 1903. So we just redid.
It's a serious building.
Yeah, they did, and it's a beautiful looking building. And
brick or wood?
It's masonry. And so they just did a building envelope issue, filling it in and cleaning it up. Things that sometimes people take for granted. Actually, the building in 1903, the first time it was open, it had an elevator. It was the first elevator in Dedham, and at times I thought it was still the first elevator in Dedham.
How big is
we
this
put in
how tall is it?
I'd say it's 3 stories from the basement. It doesn't look 3 stories because it's kind of dug into the ground there. And the Registry of Deeds, we have the first floor and part of the second floor. Okay. I mean, part of the basement. That's where we have the, we have the places where they do the closings. We have tables. I have to thank the historical societies and commissions because you try to dress the place up. We asked everyone to send us a picture. That they thought would depict their town. Brookline sent a beautiful picture of Beacon Street. And I got to thank the historical societies and commissions because they did send stuff. Wellesley sent a beautiful picture. You got a beautiful town hall. And what we did was blow up the pictures and put them around that basement. So when people come in, at least it looks a little better. A lot of times people just want to close. They want their money to exchange hands and their keys to exchange hands, and the movers can move. But again, we try to run it like a business. When I got there, and part of it was the probate court was down there, and they moved. So I said, hey, we could use the space because, you try to run it like a business. If people are going to come to close, you want to have some space for them.
You just took over the building.
I took over the part of it.
Upstairs
still has.
You got 2/3 of the building. Better than that if you count the basement. You got most of the building.
Well, yes, some people might say that, but all space well accounted for.
Okay.
I hope.
Okay. What is this business about your effort to pass land court legislation?
Well, that we had talked about the land court legislation.
We talked about
that?
Yeah,
that allowed us to do electronic recording. That just passed. It got signed into law in January.
Yeah.
And the good news is, because I'm still storing the original. By law, we have to store the original documents on the land court side, and we still do. But that legislation, in having it rewritten, allowed us to do electronic recording before we couldn't. So that was a big piece of
Bill?
things.
We covered all 95 pages of this document.
Well,
we didn't cover all, but we covered a lot of it, and you provided an awful lot of information. Anything else you want to add to what our discussion on this?
No, just I guess if I did forget anything, you can go onto our website because we tried to make it.
I got to absorb what you already said. I can't go look at other stuff. That mess up my thinking.
You could do. Some people do research.
Well, what is your website?
The website again, it's the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. We're located at 649 High Street in Dedham. The website is www.norfolkdeeds.org. If you need to send me an email, it's registerodonnell at norfolkdeeds.org. The phone number, customer service phone number is 781-461-6101.
6101. Yeah. All right. Well, this is good.
Well,
This is good
it's
stuff.
been enjoyable, and you know, there's 28 communities, but my theme always has been, people out there who are watching, you know, your house is probably your biggest asset, so the registry, that's what we deal with, so
It's very
look it up.
interesting, but so many people think their car is the best asset.
Well, yeah, maybe. I was never a big car person, but you're probably right.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, and I'm pleased that you had the time that you could come sit with me for, I guess it's been a good part of an hour.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, time went by. Well, Richard, thank you very much for having
Thank
me, and I
you.
hope the information, you know, people found it interesting.
Yeah,
But I
that's-
think it's, if it's not, it's
That's
at
what-
least worthwhile, you know, for people,
Yeah.
hopefully. But thanks for making this all
That's what
happen.
this is all about, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, I want to thank my viewing audience, and thank William O'Donnell, Register of Deeds for Norfolk County, and thank my good people out here in the studio who are working hard to make my programs successful and interesting. And with that, I will say to you, as Richard S. McGhee, good night.